We're going to take a look at one of my favorite passing concepts I like to run to go ahead and beat zone coverage with. And the name of the passing concept is called Spot. And what we're going to run this from is out of the gun bunch formation. If you're following along, you can find this one in the Texas playbook. And the actual play name is called Z-Spot. Now, the route that we're going to concentrate on happens to be the flanker. And lined up at the flanker position is probably the best receiver in the game. And that happens to be Andre Johnson. He's lined up right there as you're looking at your screen. And what he's running is a spot route towards the middle of the field. He winds up slanting in, and then he winds up hooking up in this area here. Now, this route is pretty effective as far as beating zone coverage because he winds up basically spotting underneath the coverage and allows him to get open. So let's go ahead and take a look at the pass coverages that we're going to show as far as the coverage type. And the defense that we're going to run is called sub 236, and the coverage is cover 3 as you're looking at your screen. You can see it. You wind up having these 5 defenders playing underneath coverage. So you have this guy right here, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So you have those 5 guys playing underneath. And the reason I want to show this particular play against this particular coverage is for this one reason, is the fact that if you wind up having 5 guys, imagine if I ran this one against maybe 3 guys playing underneath, he'll be even that much more open. So what I'm trying to show is, even with these amount of defenders playing underneath coverage, you can still wind up getting this particular concept to work. So let's go ahead and look at it. And what we're going to do here initially is we're going to go ahead and run this particular passing concept without doing anything at all. We're just going to go ahead and run the play as is, and then we'll talk about doing at least one adjustment before the snap that you may consider doing. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. And you can kind of see that the receiver that we're going to throw to is that guy right there, which winds up being the flanker, who's Andre Johnson. Let's look at this one from the top-down view and from the bird's eye view, that is, and let's just kind of look at it and kind of go through those pass routes so you get a kind of an idea of how this one winds up working. So what we have here is, let's go ahead and point these routes out to you as far as the way this one run, as far as the way this play is ran. We wind up having this guy right here, which is going to wind up being the tight end. This is Owen Daniels, and what he's running is an arrow route out towards the right flat area in here. Now, his route is designed to do this. It's designed to go ahead and force the flat defender to go out here and cover him. By him doing this, then he's basically creates spacing, so it allows the spot receiver to get open. This is the reason you want this route to be ran out there, so that this flat defender actually winds up going out there to cover the flat receiver. Now, let's go ahead and work our way towards the middle, or to the slot receiver, and that's going to wind up being Jacoby Jones. He's lined up right here. And what he's running is a corner route, and his route is designed to go ahead and force the hook zone defenders to go ahead and drop back. In this case, it's going to wind up basically impacting the strong safety who's playing this hook zone area. You'll actually see him go in this area here and at least keep him back and keeps him out of the area of the spot route that's being ran by the flanker. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the other route that we wanted to point out. We've already mentioned this one, and that winds up being Johnson, who's lined up right here. As we said already, he's going to be running this spot route, so he winds up coming into this area here, and he winds up spotting up in that area there, and we wind up throwing the ball to him. So let's go ahead and take a look at it, and you can kind of understand how this works as we go through it, and we'll just kind of walk you through step by step. All right, one of the things you saw right off the bat as you're looking at it, you're going to notice that this flat defender right here, he actually winds up jamming the flanker, which is Johnson. Now, what he eventually winds up doing is he winds up coming out here. Now, if you see this as a quarterback, you may be tempted to go ahead and make that throw to the tight end, which is fine. So you might go ahead and see that this guy is open in the flat, which is the tight end. You might just decide to go ahead and throw the ball to him, which is fine if you see this happening. So just keep that in mind. Something else I want to point out. Say that this defender actually winds up blitzing. If you see him blitz, then you're better off go ahead and making that throw to the tight end, because the tight end is going to be wide open. Once the tight end makes the catch, he's going to have all this room to go ahead and make the run, or at least pick up some extra yardage once he makes the catch. So that might be something you consider doing if you see that defender blitzing, or if you see him jamming a receiver such as you see on your screen there. However, we're going to go ahead and run the play because we're going to talk about this concept. Now, something else, you see he winds up going out and covering the flat. So here he goes out, going out to cover the flat right there and there. Now, pretend like that guy didn't jam that receiver and he's actually right up on him, because that's generally what will happen in some of the other defenses you might see. He actually will be right up on that tight end. Now, if you look deeper down the field, let's go ahead and just kind of change the angle just a little bit here and just talk about this. Let's go ahead and rewind it just a little bit, and you can kind of see that this guy right here, which is going to be that slot receiver, you can see him run that corner route. Here's that hook zone defender that I was talking about earlier. You can see that he winds up dropping back, and he's going to stay in this area here. That's because of that corner route, and that keeps him away from the receiver running the spot route, again, which is the flanker. The other defender, which is the hook zone defender playing here, he does as well. He also drops back a little bit, and that's, again, because of the way that slot receiver is running that corner route. Now, once this receiver winds up going and breaking his jam, and that's the flanker, once he breaks the jam, you can kind of see here's the hook zone defender there. It's in that area. He will eventually come up to try to cover him after the ball's been thrown, but by the time he does, he winds up being a little bit late getting there, and we wind up completing it. So that's the way you would run this without making any adjustments. Now let's kind of rewind it just real quick, because I want to talk about the three receivers as far as my progressions, as far as the way I would run this. So let's go back here again and rewind it. So here's this guy running that route. We wind up having this guy, which is the slot receiver, running that corner route over there, right? He winds up breaking up the field. And then we wind up having this guy right here, which is going to be this guy running a spot route. As far as my reads would be, the way I would do this if I was running this play and playing against a guy online or playing against a friend sitting next to me, I'm going to go ahead and make these reads right here. There's this guy right here, here, and here. So those will be my three reads. First is going to be the tight end, then it's going to be the spot route, and then it's going to wind up being the corner route. For me personally, that's the way I'd wind up running this particular concept. So you can kind of see that that's the way that I think a lot of guys would wind up running this. Something else I want to point out, and we're going to go to the backside here just real quick. You'll notice that this guy out here on the left, which is going to wind up being Kevin Walter, he's running this route right here, which is going to be a post route. And his particular route is he winds up taking an inside release, he winds up breaking up the field, and he winds up eventually going towards the post. Something I want to point out to you guys, if this guy right here, which is the free safety, if for some reason your opponent's in control of him, or even if the computer's in control of him, and this guy winds up, let's go ahead and clear the telestrator here as far as this highlight right there, and if this guy winds up going towards this area here, further over, he cheats way over here, say he goes all the way over here, then once you see the tied in, or excuse me, once you see the split in wind up coming into your screen here, so for instance, let's go and show the telestration here, he winds up coming in this area here, and you see that defender's all the way over towards the right, or towards the right hash mark. If you see that, there's an opportunity for you to make that throw into that area there. So if you see that, you might want to go ahead and make that throw. Just keep that in mind. But that would be the fourth choice for me personally. So just keep that in mind. That would be my fourth, as far as my progression goes, I'd wind up making my fourth receiver. I just wanted to point that out to you. That would be my as far as the way I'd make my progressions. Let's go back in here one more time, because I want to point out one last thing that you might consider doing whenever you run this play. And this is for me personally something that I do because I like to use a lot of motion. We're going to go back into the Z spot play, and what we're going to do is run it against the same defense that I showed earlier. And what I want to show is some motion here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and take control of this guy. Again, this is Johnson, the flanker. I'm going to go ahead and put him in motion out in this area here, and I'm going to snap the ball. And then what he's going to wind up doing, rather than him running his spot route in this area here, he's actually going to wind up running a spot route in this area here, about right in that area there. It's going to create a little bit more spacing. At least that's what I'm hoping for. And plus, it's going to be able to tell if I can tell if it's man or zone coverage by using this motion. Speaking of man coverage, a lot of times if you watch, and I talked about this as far as pre-reading the coverages in another video breakdown, a lot of times you can watch the corners. But for instance, say this corner is lined up right here, right? Let's kind of get the right there. It's going to get the right telestration on him, the defensive telestration, which is the red. What he does is if you see that defender wind up going out here and moving out, so let's go ahead and pretend like he's moving out here. If he moves out here, then I guarantee it's zone coverage. If he lines up across from here, then you kind of got to try to read the coverages before the snap, but kind of keep an eye on that corner. If you see him moving around, a lot of times you can tell that it winds up being zone coverage. So if you see him moving all over the place and he moves out here, over there, wherever he winds up moving, you pretty much bet that it winds up being zone coverage. Ran out a little bit of time there. Let's go back into the play, though. I just wanted to point that out to you. Anytime you guys see that happening with these type of receivers, or as far as these defenders going, a lot of times it winds up tipping off if it's man or zone coverage. So let's go back into the Z spot play again and run against that same defense that we talked about as far as cover 3 goes. All right, so let's go back in here. See how that corner winds up coming back to? You just saw him go out. He wind up going out, and he wind up coming back in. So if you're reading your coverages, if you see him going out and then coming back in, that's another tip-off that's probably winds up being zone coverage. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's go ahead and run this with the motion that I talked about earlier. So we're going to go ahead and put this guy in motion right here, right? We're going to motion him out to the outside, snap the ball before he sets, and then we're just going to go ahead and throw it there. Now, I hope that you guys noticed something there versus the way I ran it earlier when I didn't use the motion, and hopefully this will give you guys a better sense of why you want to use motion. Not only can you tell if it's man or zone coverage, but it also allows you guys to do this. It allows you to get a little bit of more spacing for that receiver to get open. And the reason I'm going to show this is because to me it's important. So here he goes. He goes out in motion, winds up coming to the inside right there. Now, if you remember right earlier, let's go and zoom in a little bit. If you remember right earlier, this guy right here, again, this is this hook zone defender. He was a little bit closer because that receiver wound up running this route into this area here and underneath. As I said earlier, there's a good chance that that defender may wind up knocking the ball out. But by motioning this guy out further out wide, then you can see that you can clearly see the difference as far as how far away this linebacker is from him. He has no chance of knocking the ball out. There's no way he's going to be able to get over there. Even this safety out here, he's not going to get over here to knock the ball out either. He's too far away, or at least he's not going to have an opportunity to do it. Here's the throw, and we wind up making the catch. And you can see clearly how far these guys are off. They really have no chance of knocking the ball once the catch is made. And that's the reason I wanted to show the motion in here. So just keep that in mind as you do this, that you might consider using motion. If you're playing in the league and doesn't allow motion, or allows motion but it basically says that you have to let the receiver set before you snap the ball, that's fine. You can still run this and get the same type of result. Also, something else you might want to do, and I'm not going to show it in this particular video breakdown because I'm running out of time on here. If the defense comes out in man coverage, you can use that same motion. A lot of times you might want to find that receiver open before he spots up where you can make the throw. You may have to make a couple other adjustments, but against bump and run man coverage in particular, he's an option that you could throw the ball to. For those of you guys that have followed me along over the years, you know what I'm talking about in some of the video breakdowns I've done in previous years. So just keep that in mind. Again, this is the spot concept. It's out of the gun bunch formation. The actual play name is called Z-Spot, and we're just showing you guys how we like to go ahead and attack zone coverages with this one by hitting the flanker on the spot route.